What is Café Mocha? Café Mocha is experts, celebrities.
What's up? This is Belle Biv DeVoe.
Yours truly, Idris Elba.
This is Fantasia.
This is In Vogue.
This is India Ari.
So much more. All from a woman's perspective.
What flavor are you, baby?
This is Café Mocha.
We're talking to the first Black press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre. Her book is called Independent: Conversations for the Culture with Café Mocha. I know Lonnie always has something on her mind. So what is it, Lonnie? Go ahead.
Kenny Lattimore and Judge Faith, they are friends of the show. They have been doing this fight against online fake accounts. And what Judge Faith did, there was a slew of online fake accounts about her and Kenny Lattimore. And they were like AI accounts. And they were, things from divorce to they're saying bad things about each other and they're talking about sexuality and all this other kind of stuff. So Faith decided to investigate. And once she investigated, she found that there are foreign actors from different countries that are making accounts. The other ones, they just kept going and going. And so once she did her discovery, she found out that there were people from like Russia and Pakistan, these different foreign countries where YouTube doesn't have jurisdiction over them. So they can't take down the accounts. And so what they do is the reason why they make it so salacious, and they found out that they were basically targeting Black celebrities, especially Black pastors, Black celebrities, because people would click on it and they get all these views. And if you know with YouTube, based on your views is how much you get paid. And so Faith was telling me, they found one guy, it was the same guy, and he had 10 different accounts about them. And just malicious lies, stories, everything. If it was in the United States that these accounts came from, they could easily block it and shut it down, and YouTube could do it. But because it's foreign, it's something different. So they have gotten with attorney Ben Crump, and there was a press conference. And I was part of the press conference. And in that press conference, they made a formal complaint to the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission. And what they're trying to, when you go on YouTube, you don't know where that account is from. You don't know the location. So what they're asking YouTube and Google to do is actually say, hey, this account is from, India. So if you saw that the account was from India, more than likely you would know, hey, this is made up. Okay. So they're also trying to get them to identify that say that this is AI generated, because a lot of people, they don't know that it's AI generated. They just hear this narration, they see the pictures, but they're thinking, oh, this is real. And I know this is because I was telling the story about, I had an account where they said that I had a baby, and they had me in a hospital, and they had me holding a baby. And
for real? I didn't know all that.
Girl, it was a mess, Angelique. It was a mess. And you think, oh, nobody's going to believe this. I get off the plane somewhere in Atlanta, and a woman come up to me, Lonnie, congratulations on the baby. I said, what are you talking about? My eggs are scrambled. I ain't got no baby. So people are really believing this stuff. And then what happens is it causes all this gossip, and, it's a lot of discourse. So what they are doing is Ben Crump, along with Faith and Kenny, they are asking for the FTC, the Federal Trade Commission, to actually make some changes. And they're trying to do it through California first, because if you go to this administration, they not going.
I was just getting ready to say the AI people, those tech people in Northern California, they are feeding the Republicans tons of money because they want all their AI stuff to just be pushed through without anybody thinking about it. Meanwhile, in California, there are at least a dozen rules about transparency as relates to AI and all sorts of things where you just can't make something up and thrust it upon people. But here's what I want to say. Google is in court right now for one thing. They're in another court for another thing with Meta and TikTok. They've been getting sued or brought before the Senate for years, for decades, and nothing ever happens to them. They don't have to pay. They don't have to anything. I'm sorry. They're just doing what they want to. And Google specifically, if you have Google, I know you have seen this Genesis thing pop up. And it's just like, hi, would you like me to, not would you like me, just at the top of the email, when you open it, it just automatically tells you the highlights of the email. I didn't ask for that. You go into any Google chat, any Google anything, even just Googling something, the first thing that comes up is the AI generated stuff from Google's AI thing. And it's like, we don't even have a choice. We don't have a choice to opt in. It's just there, here.
Have you noticed that your timeline is just filled with a lot of AI nonsense now? And it's just, they're really feeding you what they want you to focus on. And, it's almost like, when you go on YouTube, how do I opt out of this? Don't suggest.
Definitely. I mean, they really messed up. I mean, they're trying to push AI and, I get that. But for people to make a hold account on you and be able to publish it and people think that it's true, that's wrong. And so at least this is the reason why I support Faith and Kenny in this, because, right now they're doing celebrities, but eventually they will start going to just the everyday person. And what happens when they hit your children up and accuse them of doing maybe a crime that they didn't commit, or putting out false pictures of your sons and your daughters.
And that's all, I mean, the kids, they always get the stuff first. That's already been happening with little boys at schools are making sex tapes with the little girls for, AI generated. And I don't want to say there aren't any laws for that, but the legal system, Congress, the Senate, they are so
president.
They're so well. Even before then, I mean,
because the president is cussing out reporters. He's not respecting
basic.
Yeah, just not being respectful at all. Calling reporters dummies. Really disrespecting black women. Really disrespecting women reporters. Really disrespecting the Obamas. I mean, the halftime show. And so kids are seeing this. Kids are seeing this, and people are thinking this is the way to act.
That's the kind of girl I need down with my team.
Standing in solidarity from a woman's perspective. It's Café Mocha.
It's Café Mocha with Lonnie Love Yo-Yo. I'm Angelique. On the line, former White House press secretary for Joe Biden. First black person and openly queer person to serve in that role. Political advisor to Barack Obama, chief of staff for Kamala Harris's first presidential run. I'm talking about Karine Jean-Pierre. Welcome back to Café Mocha.
Hello, hi. Thank you so much for having me. It's always fun, always a joy to be on with all of you.
Well,
thank you.
We love you, Karine. And I want to know, first off, this new look you have, honey, okay? I'm like, okay, the cute curls, they were blonde, but now it's like, woolah. It's like, what happened? What made you want that new look? It's beautiful.
It's like they call it the post-White House glow-up. I think that's what they call it. I've heard it call it. But I figured, new book, new look, and I wanted to do something different. It's really funny. My hairstylist, who's been doing my hair for well over 10 years, I went to her and I said, hey, I want something different. She's like, let's blow it out. I've never seen your hair straight. This whole entire time I've done your hair. And or at least see you wear it straight. And so we tried it, and it's funny hearing the reactions from people.
Amazing. I love it. Beautiful.
Folks have opinions.
Karine, you do have a new book out called Independent, A Look Inside a Broken White House Outside the Party Lines. So what's been going on with you since the election? I mean, speaking of broken White House and all that, what's
Yes,
been going on since
yes.
the last election, last time we talked to you?
Yeah, so in the subtitle, as you just read it, The Broken White House, I am talking about the current administration, the Trump administration, and what we're seeing in this moment. If you talk about Project 2025, 48% of what they have wanted to do in Project 2025 has been basically done. And I'm talking about, what they've done to agencies, basically gutted agency, throwing out the rule of law, this whole anti-DEI campaign that they've had since day one of their administration. And immigration, obviously, as we're seeing military being deployed across the country in cities, and migrants being disappeared, but not just migrants, American citizens, particularly brown and black people, are being taken off the streets. And so this has been happening in this administration. So that's part of the book, especially the second part of the book, is really about this moment. How do we continue to fight for our freedoms? How do we continue to make sure that we're fighting for our democracy? How do we continue to fight for people who are vulnerable, who do not feel like they have a voice? So that's pretty much the second part of the book. And, earlier this year when I was thinking about writing something and what I was going to say, it wasn't this book. It was something very different. And then as I was hearing from people, minding my business, I'm out of the administration, I'm going to the, restaurant, I'm going to the grocery store, or I'm at the airport, people were coming up to me and they were saying, what is happening? Like, why do we not see more from our Democratic leadership? Why were they not prepared? What's the strategy? What's the plan? And so that's where this kind of book came to life, and that's what happened.
You know what? Talking about getting out, after working with President Obama and Biden and working on Kamala Harris's first presidential campaign, you left the Democratic Party. Can you tell us why?
So the way that worked is I worked on Biden's general election of 2020. I was not part of the primary. And then when he was selecting his running mate, he reached out to me and he asked me if I could be the chief of staff to the incoming running mate. And at the time, I didn't know who it was, and it was then Senator Kamala Harris. So that's how I became part of her team, if you will, in the general election for 3 months as her chief of staff. And that was on the Biden-Harris ticket. And so, look, the way that I see it is, I feel as if when we look at the 2024 election, when we look at the results, I do feel that the party leadership let us down. And I do feel that the party leadership tends to take Black women for granted. And it is what they do. 92% of Black women came out on election day, and it was very devastating for all of us to see the results. I talk about in the book how I believed Kamala Harris, obviously then Vice President Harris, was more than qualified to be on the top of the ticket. And I think she did a phenomenal job in her leadership in running in 2024 as being at the top of the ticket. And then what ended up happening is she lost. And during that time, even watching her run a really phenomenal campaign, I had doubts. As a Black woman walking in this chocolate skin and being who I am. I was like, wow, is this country really ready? And is the misogyny, or can we get past the misogyny and the racism? And we saw the misogyny in 2016. So I had doubts. And it's so sad because even though I was hopeful, I had doubts, and those doubts came to fruition. So I do think that part of that responsibility is on the Democratic Party and their leadership. And how do we move forward? And how do we make sure that when we have candidates that are diverse, are successful? And so I do think there is a level of disregard or taking us for granted, which is also part of the book that I talk about and speak to. And I feel as if in this moment, speaking about being independent, look, I've been part of the party for 20 years. I've worked for the first Black president. I was part of an administration where we had the first Black woman vice president. I worked for President Joe Biden, who did took a lot of historic actions and legislation, and had the most diverse administration in present modern day politics. But I do feel in this moment after 2024 and what happened and where we are today, that I don't think the Democratic Party is doing enough. And so for me, in order to have a voice and to use my platform, I thought to myself, well, let me work from the outside and see if I can push the system, because the system is broken. You have two parties right now that are not functioning. One party is completely lost, right? That's been taken over by the man in the White House who believes he's a dictator. And the other side, it's like, okay, where's your teeth? Where's your teeth? Like, where's the fight? The fact that they completely gave up their leverage during the shutdown and got nothing out of the shutdown that's a point of, that's an example right there. It's like, guys, what are you doing? The people were with them. And don't get me wrong. People losing SNAP is not great. People not having a job is not great. But they had the people with them. They were on the side of the Democrats, and they put the blame of the shutdown at the feet of Republicans, and they gave up their leverage. And those are the things that are problematic. And after having a successful 2025 November election, I mean, Democrats did well across the board, across the country, and made history across the country. And then days later, literally like less than a week later, they capitulate and get nothing out of it. Now we're headed towards a healthcare crisis. This is a problem. And these are the things that we need to talk about.
So when you left the Democratic Party, which was a great move, I think writing this book titled Independent, A Look Inside a Broken White House Outside the Party Lines was a great move. But when you left the Democratic Party, were people shocked when you told them, or did they see it coming?
Well, so here's what's so interesting. I think people who know me know that I'm an independent thinker, have an independent streak. And so there are people who truly, truly know me are like, okay, I'm not surprised Karine is using her platform in this way. It doesn't surprise me, right? And I think people who are sensitive about it and feeling their feelings about it, say whatever they want to say, whatever negative things they want to say. But if you truly know me and you know my heart, you know who I am, and you know how I've moved through life and you've watched me, it wouldn't surprise you, right? And look, I think, and this is all nuance, and I know people don't like nuance nowadays, but it is very nuanced, because I'm not saying I'm going to vote for the Republican Party. That's not what I'm saying. And I'm not even calling for a third party. What I'm saying is I'm trying to show that the system is broken. I mean, there are millions of people who are independents who many of them don't get to participate in the primary process because it's a closed primary. That's the problem. You have young people who don't see themselves in either party and want to be independent. That's a problem, right? And so the system is fundamentally broken in that way. And so to me, I want to shed light on that. I want to shed light on, how the party leadership in a party that I was part of for a long time needs to change their ways. And we cannot behave as business as usual. This is not the time. In my opinion, the Democratic Party needs to behave as the opposition party right now, because these are not normal times. Our democracy is hanging by a thread. And that's not hyperbole. I'm not exaggerating here.
But people are saying that over and over, and democracy is at stake. The very,
the Republic, we're losing it.
I mean, how do we really get that across? I mean, there are a lot of people that aren't watching the news. There are a lot of people that don't even understand how close we are to just
TikTok. Make a TikTok.
Yeah, exactly. How do we?
And that's the scary part. I agree with you, because it's not like the first time Trump was president, right? And what I mean by that is people are not watching cable news the way that they were. They just kind of turned it all off. But I do see a sign of hope. When you look at the results of the election this year in November, when you look at 7 million people coming out, No Kings Rally, And then you look at the polling that is saying that folks are rejecting Donald Trump's agenda. So people are feeling it at least and are reacting to it and seeing it for themselves what is happening. What I need right now is what I want. I think and you see this in polling with members of the Democratic Party saying that they're disappointed. I mean, the Democratic Party has their lowest poll numbers that we have seen in a long time. So what I need is Democratic leadership to meet the people where they are right now, to show some fight, to show that they are listening and they are being, like, they're not using canned lines, they're not using poll tested lines, and they're not throwing vulnerable communities under the bus. That they are fighting for all of us, fighting for this big tent, and meeting people where they are right now. Again, that's why the shutdown decision by these 8 Democrats, I don't want to call out all of them, but there were 8 Democrats, you know, in the Senate. And when I mean call out, I mean like some Democrats did the right thing, certainly in the House, but these 8 Democrats in the Senate made this decision. And I think this is what disappoints people. This is why people are like, yeah, no, we're not happy. Millions of people are not happy with where the Democratic Party is. And so that is what I'm calling for. Please meet people where they are. Fight, 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 fight. Do not capitulate.
We're talking to the first Black press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre. Her book is called Independent: Conversations for the Culture with Café Mocha.
We're at Café Mocha Radio. Socially savvy on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Serving up more Café Mocha on the way.
I have created the most advanced AI soldier.
The wait is over. Tron Ares now streaming on Disney+.
We are looking for something you've discovered. And some of us will stop at nothing to get it.
Ready? The countdown is complete.
There's no going back.
Our directive is clear.
Hang on!
Tron Ares now streaming on Disney+. Rated PG-13.
UNITY, UNITY, that's a unity.
It's Café Mocha.
It's Café Mocha with Lonnie Love. Yo, I'm Angelique, the producer. On the line is Chiquita Hall Jackson. Her story is important, and what she's going to share with us is important because women get sick, people get sick, and jobs fire us or sideline or lay off or stuff like that. So Chiquita is here to sort of guide us through what we should and shouldn't do when we get sick and dealing with our folks at work. So Chiquita, thank you so much for joining us here on Café Mocha. And it is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So this seems like a good time to talk about what to do if you get cancer.
What happened, Chiquita?
Sorry, Lonnie, I'm talking too much.
Thank you, ladies, for having me. And so what we find is, in my particular client, I have 2 different clients. One is an African-American, one is a Caucasian lady, and they both were diagnosed with cancer, breast cancer at that. And as a result, they informed their employers, and as you can imagine, they were ultimately terminated. And one experienced worse retaliation, as her supervisor did everything in her power to embarrass her, spread her information, and ultimately target her reputation and try to disguise a reason why they was trying to get rid of her. But it all went back to her disability, her diagnosis, and comments were used related to her actual medical condition. And so we know for sure it was related to her medical condition and the idea that she felt like she could no longer do her duties and dedicate the time that she needed to due to ongoing medical treatments such as radiology and chemo treatments.
You know, this is an important lawsuit, and you are, heading up this growing movement to hold major institutions accountable for workplace discrimination due to serious illness. I thought we were already covered under certain laws, but we're not, Miss Chiquita?
Great question. We have the ADA, we have a few other ones, Rehabilitation Act of Section 504, in the event that you are a federal employee or your employer that is private receive federal funding, which most employers do, that there's a few angles that prohibits this and say that you definitely can sue. But again, I tell people all the time, when you go after your employer, you never name your supervisor. You never name your HR department. You always go after the company, and the CEO get hit. So therefore, the lower people, such as managers, supervisors, and sometimes human resource leaders, are the ones who are doing the actions and the wrongdoing, and they can care less if a lawsuit happened or not. So they continue to do the wrongdoing in the workplace.
What are some signs or things that employers say or do that might indicate retaliation or discrimination?
You want to see if they're making any comments related to your disability, asking you invasive and private questions. If there is no third party to report to you, because when you have a diagnosis, you really shouldn't be sharing this with your immediate supervisor. There should be another department, such as the accommodation department, or a whole third party outside agency that handles these matters. And all your supervisor should know is that you out on leave or that you have been approved for some kind of intermediate FMLA. So that's definitely red flags. Also, the idea that maybe you're noticing your workload is now being decreased. Ultimately, you're finding some kind of performance issue that was never an issue being cited, multiple write-ups, and ultimately suspensions that would then lead to termination, and even a PIP, a performance improvement plan.
Now, this lawsuit is still ongoing?
That is correct. We filed this lawsuit probably about a good 5 months ago, and we are waiting on the ruling on the motion to dismiss. It's an actual partial motion to dismiss. So they do recognize that some of the claims will proceed, but they're asking the judge to throw out one or two claims.
Wow. It's Café Mocha. On the line, we're talking to civil rights attorney Chiquita Hall-Jackson, talking about your rights if you get sick at work. What does real reform look like beyond like these pink ribbon campaigns? Everybody wearing pink, the football players, it's stuff. It's like, yeah, that's nice, but what is real reform for us?
And I appreciate that question because we all wear pink and we love to support it. But I say real reform looks like speaking up. You hear the rumors, you hear the conversation. Someone is feeling empowered in HR to sign off on the suggested termination by your supervisor or manager. Someone has to say this is not right. Someone needs to speak up and ultimately bring more people like myself on platforms like this so that we can raise awareness, because a lot of people don't believe it happened, or they don't believe the woman should have the job anyway, because they agree in most situations that maybe she's not capable of doing her job. But she's the same woman that's still running the household, providing for her family, doing what she needs to do to make sure everything else is taken care of, and ultimately just asking for a few days here and there or a couple of hours a week to meet with a doctor. So I say more platforms that address this and raise awareness.
Tell us a little bit more about yourself, Chiquita. Where did you come from? Where did you go to school at?
I am Chiquita Hall-Jackson, attorney at law. I am from Chicago, Illinois, born and raised. I went away to law school at the Southern University Law Center in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And I started off with a general practice, and then around 2017, I saw more and more discriminatory actions in the workplace, and mostly against older workers. So I wanted to be a part of the change, and I announced then that my firm will be going strictly employment law. And we have been fighting for workers' rights ever since. I have a platform on all social media at Blow the Whistle Law. That's Blow the Whistle Law. And we are looking to grow our TikTok. And we are actually out here fighting and educating people every day on their workers' rights on our platforms.
So if a person feels like they have a case, what's the first thing that they should do?
I always tell people you need to document and gather your documents. Because a lot of times, we know we have a case, we know something is wrong, but we don't know how to articulate it. So gather those documents, draft a timeline, and then ultimately see who's willing to serve as your witness. Then reach out to an attorney like myself and let us have a consultation and determine if there's something legally you can do. And if in my situation, if you're currently not ready for litigation, I usually advise you on the next couple of steps you need to do to beef up your case so that when you're ready to address your employer, that is something there.
And what if people, feel like, well, I can't get an attorney because of finances or funds? Is there organizations that they could turn to?
There's a lot of third-party non-for-profits that work with workers. You can start at NELA.org, NELA.org, and that's National Employment Lawyers Association. I used to serve as the president. I'm the media past president of the Illinois chapter, and we definitely partner up with a lot of non-for-profits like Raise the Floor Alliance, Women Employed, and several others that either work on a sliding scale or they offer no retainer and work off a contingency base.
Wow. In closing, what should we tell anyone to keep their hopes up if they've been diagnosed with a serious illness and maybe their job may be affected? What's just some uplifting advice you can give them?
Believe in yourself and make sure you use a paper trail. You want to make sure you are not just verbally telling people, that you're putting this in writing, and that you do know that there are civil rights attorneys like myself out here fighting for you and your voice every day. So reach out and speak up.
Shakita Hall Jackson, thank you so much for your tireless work and helping communities, and especially helping women, especially during this month when it's breast cancer awareness. Check your tatas, okay?
Right. I think it's so important because women really, Lonnie, that's so great you brought that up, because so many women are afraid to talk about being sick in the workplace. We talked about it before when women were afraid to say they were pregnant. Now women are afraid to say they're diagnosed with something. That's just, it's just ludicrous.
And it just adds more stress, so your body can't heal if you even stress like that, especially if you're worrying about finances. So we appreciate you, Miss Hall Jackson. Thank you so much for your work.
Thank you for your time, ladies.
Take care.
Have a good one.
You too. Take care.
Here's your dose of espresso. Strong, hot news now.
This is the Espresso. I'm Angelique. Don Lemon won 4 NAACP Image Awards for his YouTube show. On his mind, freedom of speech.
Black people are losing their jobs as journalists faster than and more than any other ethnic group, and especially black women. Diversity is important, and representation is important as well, especially in journalism, because without the First Amendment, the rest of the Constitution does not stand.
Morgan Freeman has a new show he's producing about the Confederacy during the Civil War, which got him on the topic of politics.
I can't personally understand how a convicted felon, gets to be president. How do you do that?
Morgan Freeman is executive producer of the Amazon series The Gray House, which is streaming now.
We must never surrender. America will get better and better. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. I love you very much.
That's the Espresso.
UNITY. UNITY. That's a unity.
It's Café Mocha.
It's Café Mocha. She's known as the mother of the NBA. She's also known as Kevin Durant's mom. But she's a motivator. She's a mentor. She's trying to get kids into college and through college and lift up others. She's also a former Salute Her winner. On the line right now is Ms. Wanda Durant. Welcome back to Cafe Mocha.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. How are you all today?
We are
Good.
doing. We love you so much. I love your leadership. I love the way family and community matters to you. And I just want to know, why is giving back within your community always so important to you?
Well, because for me, I just want the community to know that I have not forgotten who we are in our community and what we bring. I want them to know that I do understand some of the challenges that they face, because I face those challenges, and they were support for me when I was raising my children. So I want to be the support that the community needs today.
I wanted to talk about, I do a lot of work with the Yo-Yo School of Hip Hop Black College Expo over at Bowie State. And I do remember the Durant Family Foundation donating $500,000 to Bowie State to renovate the basketball gym. Can we talk a little bit about that?
Of course. That was one of our big accomplishments in the area, because Kevin believes that, a lot of kids in our area go to our local HBCUs, and he wanted them to know that even though he's an alum of the University of Texas, the home school, Bowie State University, is dear to his heart because he's played there when he was a kid coming up. And so he wanted to impact the youth and when they go play at the gym, and he wanted the students who go to Bowie to have a nice, attractive gym. And so he decided to donate $500,000 to the university, and they named the gym after him. And so we went for the grand opening. It's a beautiful renovations, and so we're excited to be a part of the Bowie family, of course.
I love it.
Want a little more of our flavor? Stay right there. It's Café Mocha.
It's Café Mocha. We're talking to Wanda Durant.
Talk about the other work that the Durant Center does year round. Can you talk about that?
Yes, we have one of our signature programs. We have so much we do over there with our partnerships, but one of them is the College Track program, which is a program for first-generation college students. Our goal is to bring them in at 9th grade, follow them for 10 years, and ensure that they receive their bachelor's degree. And then if they want to go to graduate school or get a job, we assist them after they graduate. So that's one of the things. And we have a summer enrichment camp, which we focus on emotional wellness for primary to middle school age students. We want them to be able to identify, manage, and communicate their emotions effectively. And so we've gone into our 4th year for that. Then we also have our outreach programs where we support the community during the holiday seasons with gift bag giveaways, and then we have a Christmas giveaway. Then we have our Team Durant, which is our sports team where our kids get D1 scholarships and go off to play basketball. A few of our students have been drafted into the NBA. And so then we do outreach all over the country, and we have a Build a Court and They Will Ball, which we've built 33 basketball courts all over the world. And so that's what we do. And then we also partner with local nonprofits to support some of their initiatives where there is an alignment. And so we just want the community to know that Kevin and our family love where we've come from, want to support those in need all over the world in the best way we can.
This is, first of all of that is fantastic, Ms. Durant. But when you gave birth to your son, Kevin, could you ever imagine that you would be doing all of this?
What's that term? I never would have thunk it. Never, ever. Never, ever. And that's a part of my message that I share with young people, in particular young moms. Like, I was an 18-year-old mom. I was a teen mom. And I wanted to quit on myself, but the only thing that stopped me was my children. And so I use my story as inspiration to young parents to don't quit, because you never know what your life could be.
Right.
I go around, I do speaking. I've spoke all over the world, which I never thought my story would take me across the world, but it has. The last few years, I've kind of focused my attention on being the president of our family foundation. But I told the young mothers and young people, period, and women that don't quit, because you just never know what God's plan is for your life. And most of the time is far exceeds what you have planned for your life. I just love what I do. Like, I love when the young people...
This is what I love about you, because even those who don't know who your son is, you give us the opportunity to go and research your son. Of course, he's a celebrity, but the time you give, the passion that comes behind your giving. And like you said, you didn't think your story would take you around the world, but there are so many mothers in your position who have young kids, talented kids who want to give up. So, I love hearing you, seeing you, and watching you inspire the community. I'm also inspired by your testimony.
Well, thank you so much. And another one of our programs that we're working with a consultant to bring on, because one of the things I just in spending time with young people, I realized that some of them do not know that there's so many career paths associated with their skills, passions, and hobbies, and they think that it's very limited in some regard for them. And so we're starting this program called the Real MVP Studios, where we're bringing in community stakeholders to help young people to kind of identify some careers associated with the arts, which they may be interested in, because they don't know that it can it can take them into any realm or any space of a career choice. So we just want to inspire them to know more, to know that the world is large, but it's actually really small.
Mr. Rand, thank you so much for joining Café Mocha.
Thank you so much, ladies. It's been an honor. It's always a pleasure to speak with you all, and I look forward to talking to you all soon. Love you guys. I love you to pieces. I love you guys.
Café Mocha is a production of Miles Ahead Broadcasting in partnership with Super Radio. Executive producer Sheila Eldridge. For comments, booking, or more information, visit cafemocharadio.com.